Marcy, it's okay. She's just trying to be friends. Good afternoon, and welcome back to the farm. We have had a significant temperature drop since yesterday. It's in the low 40s today. It's not too bad in the sun, as long as the breeze doesn't kick up too much. I've got a couple of gardening jobs to do today. I've got to harvest onions, and then I've got to do some mulching. And that shouldn't take me too long. I've got some mowing to do, and then I have bee club tonight. So I'm kind of on a short schedule. So we'll see how much of this we can get done. So, for getting those in the ground so late, it's not a terrible haul. I could have wished for better, but I also think I just need more space for onions. Not this coming year, the following year. But, so I've got some to get me through, not the whole winter, but maybe a couple of months. And the smallest ones that you see back there, and I've got some of the yellow ones the same, I'm just going to use those as onion sets next year, and I'll just plant those back in the ground in the spring, and we'll see what we get from that. So these need to sit here for like a week to cure, so the skins will dry out, they'll get a little stronger, and then I can string them up, and I think I'm just going to hang them out here, and we'll keep them in storage here in the shed until I need them. The red onions won't keep as long as the yellow onions, so I may chop those up and put them in the freezer. But we'll wait and see how they look when everything's cured. So I've got about half an hour left, so let's go do some mulching. Alright, so I've run out of straw, so I'm done mulching. I think if I get 2 more bales of straw, maybe 3, next week, and I can work on mulching the rest of these beds. I want all of the beds covered with something for the winter. It'll help keep weeds down in the spring and protect the soil over the winter. It'll decompose, so it'll put more organic matter in the soil. So just all in all, having that on there is going to be good for it over the winter. But I've got too much else going on this week, so that's going to have to be a next week project. All right, I'm going back to work. I may try and mow this afternoon, but if I run out of time, I'll see y'all tomorrow. All right, I got out and got it done. So that should be, fingers crossed, the last mow I have to do for the year. I know it didn't get mowed after I closed on the farm, which was a year ago last week. And it never needed a mow until this spring. So I should be good. I still have a little bit of cleanup. Like I want to get this patio raked off so it's at least tidy for the winter. But otherwise, that's it. That's the list for today. Tomorrow, theoretically, I'm going to be putting fences around fruit trees. So come on back and we'll get that done. Take care, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the farm on this finally fine Saturday. It's a little nippy out, but that's okay. That's kind of sort of how I want it. Today, in case you couldn't tell, is a big day. It's time to put 4 of the Jersey Giant roosters into the freezer. I will not show most of the process. I will show you the setup. I will show you some from a distance, but there will be no blood, there will be no gore. I have done this before under supervision. I learned from a local homesteader down in Pennsylvania how to butcher chickens. But that was 2 years ago, and there's a lot I don't remember. So I was up for several hours last night reviewing some videos on how to do it. There's one piece that I'm really uncertain about, but the rubber's going to hit the road and we'll figure it out in the process. I have to run into town to get a couple of things that I need. Ice, primarily, and propane for the stove for the water for scalding. And then we'll get here and get to it. I'm all set up now. I can't think of anything I'm forgetting. So let me show you what I've got. This area here is the culling station. These cones, you put the chickens in upside down and let their heads come out the bottom here so that you can dispatch them. The nice thing about the cones is it's kind of a hug. It holds them in so they feel a little safer. And being upside down calms them down and kind of makes them a little groggy with the blood all rushing to their head. So then when you dispatch them, it's seconds and they're gone. So I like the cone method. My mom keeps saying, oh, you're going to get the axe out? No, Mom, I'm not going to get the axe out. That's old-fashioned. That's a little too old-fashioned even for me. So then we let the blood clear out of their system for a few minutes, which is what the buckets are for, to catch those, and that will go on the compost pile. We put blood meal on the gardens in pellet form. You can put it on in fresh form just as easily. Then this is my camping stove, and I've got that set up. I have water heating up in the house, and I'll bring that out here and keep it warm on the camp stove. You need that water to be between 140 and 170 degrees with a little bit of dish soap in it. And then once the birds are done crossing over, then we dip them in the hot water for about a minute. That loosens up their feathers so they're easier to pull off. Then they'll come over here where I've got a plucking station set up. Someday I will have an automatic plucker. This is not that year, and especially I have a friend nearby who I could borrow a plucker from, but since I'm only doing 4 chickens, it doesn't make sense to haul that all over here and deal with all of that. If I do more in next year, then I'll see about borrowing the plucker. So we're just going to hand pluck. So I've got a chair here to sit on, and the tarp there is just like for a lap cover, so all the wet feathers aren't getting all over us. Then they're going to come here to the evisceration table. So I've got my knife set up. I've got a bucket. The metal bucket is for scraps for the dogs, if Avery would like to have the hearts, the livers, anything like that for the dogs. And then this is for any other food scraps that I don't use, the intestines and things like that. Theoretically, you can put those in a hot compost. I don't trust my compost to be hot enough, so I'm just going to, I'll probably just put it out on the edge of the woods and let it break down out there. Then, once they are gutted, they'll go into this bucket here, which is going to have ice water and vinegar in it, and that just finishes cleaning out anything that's left. And then they'll go in the cooler, which is full of ice, and I'll put some water in there, and they're going to chill out until tonight when I'll bring them in the house and bag them. And that's the process. Again, I am not going to show you that process. Never show anything that you're not confident in doing. Well, that's not true. I do that for you guys all the time. But, and it's more than you want to see. If anybody wants to see that in the future, let me know, and I'll see about doing a private video of that. But there are a million YouTube videos out there on how to butcher a chicken. I watched many of them last night as I was trying to build up my confidence for today, so I'm not going to record any of that. Let me go get the water and get Avery, and then we'll get the chickens. And that's done. It's kind of hard to find the words after doing something like that. It's hard. It's physically hard. That took about 4 hours to do 4 birds, which I was doing it by myself, and it was my first time, so obviously it was going to be a lot slower. And it was cold and windy, so that made it extra challenging, but it helped with preservation. And there's the moral issue. I've raised these birds from chicks, and I brought about the end of their life. But I think it's important, and especially as for carnivores, which I count myself among, we still have an ethical obligation to the food that we eat, to make sure that it is raised well and kindly and generously, and dispatched with care and respect, and the remains treated with dignity. And especially since this was my first time, there were places where I feel like I could have done better. If anybody in the central New York area is butchering chickens anytime soon, let me know. I'm happy to come out and help out and observe so I can improve my technique. But we are so far removed from the source of our food. I got in an argument with a woman at work a couple of years ago when I was telling her about my plans for the farm and what I wanted to raise, and that I was going to raise sheep. And she looked at me in horror and said, "Oh, you aren't going to eat those lambs, are you?" And I'm like, "Well, probably some of them." "Oh, I could never do that." I'm like, "Oh, you don't eat lamb?" "Oh, no, I love lamb." But that's still a dead... "Oh, but that came from the grocery store and it's wrapped up in plastic. I could never." Well, yeah, because you don't understand that meat that's wrapped up in plastic at the grocery store was also a little lamb playing, well, not even playing, because the animals that you get at the grocery store probably lived in cages their whole life and never got to go out on pasture and never got to play and never had a respectful life. So this is important to do. Now, will I do it when I have meat birds? Hell no. That was a lot of work. And so I can raise them ethically and hire somebody to dispatch them ethically. I did find information for a man who has a mobile butchering service for poultry. So he would come out to the farm, so they'd never even have to leave the farm. And we'll do all the processing right here on property. So if I do meat birds next year, that's probably the route I'll go. Again, it's added expense, but don't fool yourself into thinking that raising your own animals means you're saving money. You're not. But you know what they're eating, you know how they're raised, you know how they're taken care of, and you know how their lives ended. And I think that is important to do, to be an ethical carnivore. Not everybody's going to agree with me, and all I can ask is, if you have a difference of opinion, please be respectful. If you're a jerk about it, you will get blocked, and I'm sorry, but this is the life that I've chosen to lead, and I'm going about it in the most ethical way that I am able to at this stage. And as I learn better, I will do better. So I'm going to sit in this space for a while, and it's an onerous thing to take a life. Even for good cause, it is an onerous thing to take a life. I have a little cleaning up left to do. that I'll leave for tomorrow. I gotta wait for the tarps to dry off, and then I can fold those up and put them away and take down the cones until the next time I need them. The buckets all need to be hosed out, but that'll all keep till tomorrow. The remaining chickens are all watered, and I gave them treats, and we will hopefully see if the Jersey Giant that's left is of decent temperament, or he'll go into the freezer to join his brothers, because I'm not tolerating aggressive roosters. And I don't know if I mentioned that I got charged up the backside by one of them the other day while I was filling the water. I felt something run into my behind, and I turned around, and there's this rooster just squared off against me, ready to take the next attack at me. So I just drove him off with the hose. So thanks for coming along today. This is part of the homesteading lifestyle, and it isn't always pretty or easy or gentle, but it's all worthwhile. So I hope you'll come back and see what we get up to next. Have a good night, everybody.